What's going on, everybody? This is Always Talking Ball. Tyler Noe, Lance Barton. It is June, so the dog days of summer are upon us. But do not fear, ATB will be here all summer long, especially these next couple weeks. We are on the verge of getting some very good guests to come on and talk some ball with us. So you are going to want to make sure you're subscribed to our channel on YouTube. Make sure you're following on Apple and Spotify. Check right now. Click the button. It's been a while since we did a plug for Home Field Apparel too. We kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit. But we got a ton of new subscribers, a ton of new listeners every single day. You're going to want to head over to homefieldapparel.com, get some gear to get you prepped for the season that is less than 90 days away. When you get to checkout, type in ATB15 for 15% off of your order. Or you can just scan that QR code in the top right of your screen, and it'll take you right there. And let's get into it. These are going to be teams that are, we'll tell you the odds, via FanDuel of them to win their conference as of right now, kind of where they rank, their win totals, all that stuff. So you'll get the gist of kind of why these teams are predicted to be sleepers. But we're going to start off with one who actually made the college football playoff last year, the first ever 12-team playoff, and that's the Tennessee Volunteers. They are tied for the 10th best odds to win the SEC at 24-1. Their win total is set at 8.5. But if you think about just like the offseason they've had, right? They went to Columbus, riding on a high. Ohio State was coming off a loss against Michigan, and they just got pummeled. And then their quarterback, whether you like him or not, whether you think he was good or not, he was still their starting quarterback. He was going to be the second year in the system. He's gone. And, it sounds like he was maybe a little bit of a problem there, a little bit of an issue, and they're kind of glad, to get rid of him, focus on the play on the field. So from a schedule perspective, though, they get UGA at home, third week of the season too, right? So it's a fresh Georgia team. Gunnar Stockton, obviously he played at the end of last year, but it's going to be his third start. It's on the road in Knoxville. That's going to be tough. That's tough for anybody to win in
Knoxville. His first road start, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if people realize, but the home road dichotomy for Tennessee is unbelievable. Like they're just, if you go back and look at it, all their losses over the last few years, they're pretty much all on the road. Tennessee has lost one home game in the last 3 years. It was to Georgia 2 years ago. That was that's their last home loss. So again, Tennessee has only lost one home game in the last 3 years, and they've got a chance to avenge that.
Yeah.
And Gunnar Stockton, dude, imagine your first road game
at night too.
At night.
Wait, no, it's not at night. It's in the afternoon.
Yeah, you're right. So but still, either way, that mid-afternoon game there in Knoxville. That place will be rocking.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be. I can't wait for that one, man. To see Gunnar Stockton's first road game at Tennessee against Wisconsin. Well, again, Tennessee's going to have a solid defense again.
Yes, we'll talk about that here in a second. They're going to have a solid defense, but if they can get that Georgia game at home somehow, they're still going to be underdogs in that game. But if they can get that game at home, win the games that they should on their schedule, against Syracuse to open up the season, they've got winnable road games in the SEC at Mississippi State and Kentucky. They can win those games. They got to go to Bama and they got to go to Florida. But, say you split those games even, right? You win at Florida and you got one loss in the SEC. You find yourself kind of vying for that SEC championship at the end of the season.
If you really think about it, they just win the games that they're quote unquote supposed to win.
Yeah.
And then at Florida in the Swamp, at Bama, Georgia, you go 1-2 in those games. We know the magic number until something is proven different. I know last year everybody was at the end of the year fighting over the whole 9-3 discussion. If you've played a tougher schedule, blah, blah, blah. Until something changes, 10-2 is the magic number. At least 10 wins. And for Tennessee to get to 10-2, to win the games you're favored in, and then go 1-2 in the Georgia, Florida, and Alabama game. Those 3 games. And you're possibly sitting there looking at a chance for the playoff bid.
Yeah. Big question is, are they going to rally around the new quarterback, whether it's Merklinger, Aguilar? I mean, and will they be better without Nico? Like some people actually think they're going to be better on offense without Nico, and they're going to have a quarterback who is going to be a little more accurate on those deep passes.
Dude,
did you know talk about their defense? Like their defense is still going to be solid.
Oh, the defense is going to be really solid. They lost some pieces up front, but they had like Cole Kubelik talked about this here recently. They came in waves last year on that D line. They were the deepest the most depth for a defensive line last year of anybody in the country. I'm not saying they were the best defensive line. They were a really good D line, and they bring back a lot of the solid pieces there. But did you know? I went back and looked at this. Ever since Josh Heupel's been a head coach, the least productive quarterback he's ever had was Nico last year. By the numbers, the least productive quarterback he's ever had.
I believe it.
Yeah. I mean, the touchdowns, the interceptions, the actual yards passing, the completion percentage, efficiency, all the stuff that you look at for quarterbacks. Like, I mean, Mackenzie Milton, Dylan Gabriel, Hendon Hooker, and even Joe Milton.
Yeah. And if you look at Nico's
productive.
stats too, like, I mean, he put up most of his damage against crappy teams.
Yep. So, I mean, that's why I'm like, you made a good point, man. Whoever QB1 is going to be, this is Josh Heupel's system here. Really good quarterbacks coach in general, really good offensive coach. I mean, his offense has been really good every year. He's been a head coach when he was an offensive coordinator before that at Mizzou, before he took over at UCF. I mean, I just think that if it's Aguilar or Merkling or whoever it is between those two, do we really think they can't put up the same type of production at least that Nico did last year?
Yeah.
I mean, the production they're going to have to replace is not Nico. It's Dylan Sampson.
Yeah.
In that run game. I mean, the best run game in the SEC last year. So that's where they're going to have to replace. They lost a couple offensive linemen too. So whoever it is going to be QB1, like that's where they need to figure it out as far as running back Peyton Lewis or Deshaun Bishop. Probably a 1-2 punch there. Again, neither one of those guys have to be Dylan Sampson. Both of those guys combined could try to put up at least some of the production, if not all the production combined that he had last year. You know, running back by committee instead of one dude just tearing it up. But yeah, man, I mean, the schedule does set up nice for Tennessee. And if they can just get solid play out of the quarterback, you got to like what they've got, you know, on the defensive side of the ball. And you got to trust Heupel that he's going to be able to call it good enough on offense where they're going to be able to score enough points where that defense can just still hold team. I mean, the schedule, you hit the nail on the head, man. The schedule is what sets up nice for this Tennessee team.
Yeah. And you gotta hope that if you make that CFP, that your quarterback's not going to try to hold you hostage for a new deal. So,
that's funny.
Next team on our list, the Texas A&M Aggies, coming in sixth best odds to win the SEC, plus 1,500, 15-1, which is crazy because their win total is 7.5. It's a full game lower than Tennessee's. And that, you know, it has something to do with, obviously, they go on the road. They played Notre Dame week 3 of the season. But again, they got a heck of a returning cast of characters. You got Marcel Reed at quarterback in his second year in the system with Colin Klein. Le'Veon Moss, Ruben Owens, Amari Daniels, and E.J. Smith probably make up the best, like, whole running back room in the country. Like, obviously, they're not up there with Penn State and Notre Dame as the top running backs, but I mean, when those guys are healthy, they are fantastic. And they got the receivers, Casey Concepcion. We got Mario Craver from Mississippi State, Terry Bussey. We've talked about him. A lot of these teams we talked about, like Texas A&M, we talked about in our, you know, post-spring power rankings for the SEC. You can go check out that episode right now. But we covered a lot of them. But Lance, give me your thoughts on the Aggies, man. Like, why would they be a sleeper in your mind?
Well, first off, year 2 in the system here with Mike Elko and offensive coordinator Colin Klein. We see a lot of teams usually make a pretty big jump from year 1 to year 2. I'm not saying that Mike Elko is Kirby Smart or Nick Saban, but what my point is like even like Kirby Smart's the best coach in the game right now. Nick Saban is the greatest of all time. Like even Saban, his first year at Bama, had struggles. Kirby, his first year at Georgia, had struggles, and then they just took off after that. The point behind that is not that Mike Elko is Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, but that normally year 2 for a coaching staff and a coach that's a really good coach, that first year you're kind of changing the culture, especially at A&M. There was a lot that needed to be changed there from the Jimbo Fisher era. Yeah. And if you anything and everybody that you hear talking out of College Station, they talk about that has been done already. That culture has changed. Things are just a lot different there overall. And then the talent acquisition. I mean, obviously A&M's up there with a lot of teams in the country as far as like this NIL era. They're really good in the transfer portal. They still recruit at a high level. So I like the fact that Marcel Reed's in year 2 with Colin Klein and his system in year 2, the stable of running backs that you talked about. But, dude, where does it all start in college football, especially in the Southeastern Conference at the highest level of college football, the Big Ten, SEC, all that?
Trenches.
Trenches, man. It's all about the trenches. And the Maroon Goons is what they're called. A&M brings back all 5 starters on their offensive line that started the season last year. They had a couple injuries and whatnot, but they're very experienced along the offensive line. And then you bring in someone like KC Concepcion and Mario Craver, add speed like that on the outside with year 2 in the quarterback of Marcel Reed. And I'm telling you, this offense has a chance to be much better than what it was last year. And I mean, people want to bang on Marcel Reed, dude. I mean, dude, he was a true freshman starting in the friggin' SEC in his first year in a system like that. So, I mean, I think he could probably make a pretty big jump. I'm not worried about Mike Elko's defense. He's such a good defensive coach. I mean, they may not be the number 1 defense in the country or something like that, but I think they're going to be solid enough as long as he's the head coach. Schedule-wise, I mean, they've got 3 road games that are pretty brutal. That's the part that would give me a little bit of hesitation there. Obviously, they're at Notre Dame on September the 13th. They're at LSU in Baton Rouge and Tiger Stadium on Saturday, October the 25th. And then they're at Texas at the end of the year in Austin. That's obviously 3 really good football teams that they're going to be facing on the road. Do I think
that's also 3 very good opportunities?
Correct.
To get wins.
That's the way I look at this too. Thank you for saying
that.
When you're trying to sit here and compete for chances, and like at the end of the year, if there's a bunch of teams sitting there 10-2, and you're trying to decide which, again, the key number, 10-2, and you're trying to decide who's going to get into this thing, and you've got A&M sitting there with a possible non-conference road win at Notre Dame, and let's just say they only win one of those. And then you win all your home games. I mean, that's a 10-2 record with some very quality wins.
I mean, yeah, say they lose to Notre Dame, Texas, but they go on the road. They win at LSU. They beat South Carolina. They beat Florida. They win at Missouri. They beat Auburn. Like, those are very good wins.
Yeah, 100%. And so with what they're bringing back talent-wise, what they've added piece-wise, year 2 in the coaching system there, and I do think that they are good enough to where I don't look at those 3 road games and say, there's no way Texas A&M could win those games. Like, I don't look at that at all. They absolutely, and the lines will tell it too. When they go to Notre Dame, I bet you that line won't be that much. And depending on how they are later in the year, when they go to Baton Rouge, that line probably won't be that much. So, yeah, I think Texas A&M is absolutely someone that people need to be talking about more as a possibility for a 12-team playoff bid.
Gig 'em.
All right, what we got next, man?
Let's head to the Big Ten, and let's touch on a team that we did not get to in our Big Ten power rankings, and that's the Washington Huskies.
We're heading to the Fishbowl.
Heading to the Fishbowl up in the Pacific Northwest. 10th best odds to win the Big Ten, 55-1, with a win total of 7.5. So that tells you anything right there. Like, I know I bagged on the Big Ten for not being super deep, but like a team that's more than halfway, like in the lower half, has a win total of 7.5. That's pretty solid. Can they get a breakout season from Damon Williams Jr., who's going to be their quarterback?
They can.
Yeah, he's got, from everything we've read, from everything we've watched, all the highlights, the tape, he looks like he could be one of this season's breakout players. And later on in the season, we're going to come out with, some of our rankings of the top 12, positions and all that. He's not going to be a top 12 quarterback. I'm going to go ahead and spoil that. But top 12 breakout players, like, he most certainly will make that list.
Yeah, he'll be towards the top of that list, man.
Yeah.
And they're replacing both coordinators. So Brendan Carroll, Pete Carroll's son, went to the NFL to coach with his pops with the Raiders. And then defensive coordinator Steve Belichick went to coach with his pops at North Carolina.
A lot of nepotism up there.
Yeah, exactly. They're bringing in Ron Walters, who I know he wasn't a good head coach at Purdue, but the dude was a really good defensive coordinator at Illinois.
Some guys are just designed to be coordinators.
Yeah, they were one of the better defenses in all of college football that year when he was DC. So I like the hire there. And then Jed Fish stayed loyal and is given a great shot to a long-time journeyman. He's called plays before in the past, but he's been with Jed Fish for a few years now, and it's OC Jimmy Daugherty. Dude, I looked up his resume. He has been a quarterback's coach for many years in the past. He was a QB's coach for Sark back in the day at Washington. He's coached under coaches like Sark and Chip Kelly and now Jed Fish. Really good offensive minds. Just like we talk about some of these coaches that coach defense, and there's the head coach. We always say, I'm not really worried about the defense under that coach. I'm not worried about the offense under Jed Fish. What his turnaround, what he did with Noah Fafita there and Jaden DeLaura at Arizona, which, by the way, Jimmy Doherty was with him there as well and was the QB's coach for both those quarterbacks I just named. I just think with the talent that they're going to have on offense, I mean, dude, one of the most exciting trios that the rest of the country doesn't know about yet, but they will soon, is Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, and Denzel Boston.
Does it feel like Washington? I mean, it feels like we're back 2 years ago in the Pac-12 where they're just not getting the respect that they're due, and that's including from us too.
Yeah, dude. People just, I don't know, man. It's just they're up in the Pacific Northwest. I really don't know the geography. I really don't. But I think it's more so the epidemic that you and I have talked about with college football, that if you didn't go 10-2 or 11-1 or some big time, just like crazy team last year, there's no way you could be good again this year.
Yeah.
Like every time, dude, that we post any of these rankings to our social medias or some of these reels that we post to our social medias, and all of these fans that get in there and comment and act like that this team's, there's no way they went 7-5 last year. They went last year. Key phrases, guys, are last year.
Yeah.
Ask Florida State last year what last year meant to them when they went 13-0 in the regular season, and last year they only won 2 games. And this year, in this era of college football, in the NIL and transfer portal era, year to year, rosters flip, coaches flip, so many things can change.
Yeah.
Damon Williams was a young freshman last year and kind of took over at the end of the year for Will Rogers at quarterback. Now he's year 2 there. Jed Fish was in his first year as the head coach there, speaking of year 2 somewhere. So, yeah, I mean, I just think this Washington team, man's got a chance to seriously make some noise. And they're another one. They are freaking death at home, bro.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about the schedule. Let's first talk about that setting that we, out there in Seattle, right there.
Husky Stadium,
water.
Man.
They're going to go sailgating. And they have been very dangerous at home all the way back to, I mean, shoot, even when Chris Peterson was there, he didn't have the greatest record, but they were really good at home there. Obviously, Kalen DeBoer followed it up. They're tough, man, and they get 3 games. Their 3 toughest games by far are at home this year.
Yep.
They get Ohio State, Illinois, and Oregon at home. Now, you get those on the road, like I mentioned a lot last year. Like, you get those on the road, it's like, okay, let's chalk those up as 3 losses. You'd almost rather get them out of the way and get some easier games to just guarantee yourself wins at home. Of course, nothing's a guarantee this year, but like Ohio State, Illinois, Oregon, say you get 2 of those. Like, and Oregon's at the end of the year. They got a new quarterback in Dante Moore. Ohio State, like, that's going to be one of their first road games of the season, and they're going to have a new quarterback. And they're traveling all the way from Ohio, 3 different time zones.
We saw that last year, man, how that was a problem for teams traveling 3 or 4 time zones. Like the record against the spread and all that was awful.
And I don't think Ohio State had to do that at all last year. Like, and I mean, they went to Oregon and they lost.
Oregon.
But yeah. So like Ohio State, Illinois, Oregon at home. Now they do have a tough road game at Michigan. Michigan's looking to be better, but I'm just saying, like, you get a couple of those games, and again, Lance talked about the magic number is 10 wins. You find some way to 10 wins if you're in the SEC and the Big Ten, and you can find yourself sitting there really pretty at the end of the year.
I'm going to remind everybody one thing, too, about this same coach here and this same most of the same staff here. A couple of years ago, your boy here was all over him, gave him out of his season win total over 6.5. And I think Arizona ended up winning 10 games that year in the Big 12. Nobody thought they were going to be worth a piss that year either. And I agree with you, man. This coaching staff and the quarterback that they're going to have, if they can stay healthy, they're going to be a tough out, man, and a problem for a lot of teams in the Big Ten this year.
Yeah. Let's stay in the Big Ten and get 2 time zones over to the Central Time Zone. We'll make our way east and stop in Lincoln, Nebraska, and talk about the Cornhuskers a little bit. They got the 8th best odds to win the Big Ten at 38-1. Again, another win total of 7.5, just like Washington. Year 3 for Matt Rule. Temple, Because year 1, you had 2 wins. Year 2, 6 wins. Year 3, 10 wins. Baylor, it went 1-7-11. Nebraska went 5-7 and question mark, obviously, for 2025. But the key is Dylan Raiola is back for a second year. He was a true freshman last year. He showed flashes. He showed flashes, obviously, against Colorado in a primetime spot as national television. Nebraska's defense had a lot to do with that game, but Raiola didn't lose it. He played pretty well. He showed flashes on a Friday night against Illinois, even though they came out, down. He played well in the horseshoe against Ohio State. But it was a typical just kind of up and down season for your 5-star freshman quarterback. Like, very rarely does a 5-star true freshman quarterback come in and just light college football on fire. So, but he gets year 2, he gets it under Dana Holgorsen.
Yeah, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head, dude. A guy that's a true freshman starting in the Big Ten as a true freshman, then gets his offensive coordinator changed in the middle of the season. I mean, I'm sorry, man. I know that it's kind of become, again, kind of the cool thing to bang on him because of the kind of the antics of the Pat Mahomes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I know that's kind of become a funny thing. The dude's talented as hell. Holgorsen is a really good OC. I think that was a great move by Matt Rule to make that change there like he did. And I think they're going to reap the benefits of it this year. Having already getting to play a little bit in that system, learn Holgo's stuff there, and then now have the entire offseason to be in this system. Got a couple solid pieces in the transfer portal. He's going to have his weapons as well. I mean, question for me, Tony White is a really good defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. Really good DC. He made, the ATB top 12 defensive coordinator list last year. He's got built up a hell of a resume. He left for Florida State to be the new DC at Florida State when Florida State did their wholesale fire drill there of hiring a bunch of new coaches there. And Matt Rule hired from within and hired John Butler, who was the passing game coordinator, defensive guy, defensive backs coach last year. Spent a long time in the NFL, about 6 years for the Buffalo Bills. It's just one of those things. Like, if you believe in Matt Rule and think he's a hell of a coach, then you just believe that he's making the right hire there in Butler at DC.
What do you personally think?
I like the hire.
Yeah,
I do like the hire. Looking overall at his resume, I don't think you spend as good as the Buffalo Bills were there for a long period of time there. Their head coach is a defensive-minded head coach in general there with the Bills, that you spend as long as you've spent there. And then he was, I think, with the Texans for a while with Bill O'Brien. He was Bill O'Brien's defensive coordinator for Penn State way back in the day when Bill O'Brien took over that impossible situation after all of that crazy stuff with Jerry Sandusky and Paterno. So, I mean, I think he's getting a great shot here to coach for a guy like Matt Rule. Again, Rule, man, most of his defenses have been solid ever since he's been a head coach. So I think that'll probably be the same here. But the schedule, man, the schedule. No Ohio State, no Oregon. Would you ever think you'd say this and think it's like a big deal? No Indiana, and no Illinois. Those 4 teams are 4 of the top, like odds on 6 favorites, 6 or 7 favorites to win the Big Ten.
In our rankings too.
Yes. And so they don't play any of them. They get Michigan, USC, and Iowa all in Lincoln. So I'll say that if it's not now, man, then when is it? Seriously, if it's not now,
if they don't get above 7 wins, you just start to feel really, really bad for Nebraska fans.
Yeah, dude, that fan base, they deserve it, man. They deserve better than what they've gotten. And if it's not this year, the way that this schedule sets up, year 2 with this talented quarterback, the moves that they've made, if they're not a 9-win type team this year, then I don't know. But again, the magic number 10-2. We just went over the schedule. I mean, obviously at Penn State on November 22nd, that's rough. But there's no reason at all that they can't beat every other team on their schedule. And I'm not sitting here and saying right now today, yeah, obviously we think Penn State's probably a lot better than Nebraska as we sit here today. Them winning at Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley, probably not going to happen. But is that just chalked up as a no way, automatic loss? We saw Nebraska go last year into Columbus and do everything but win that damn game. So there's no reason at all to not sit here and say that it's not possible for Nebraska to get to 10 wins. I think they can.
Yeah, it's a big year for Matt Rule.
It is. And they're one of those teams, man, right out of the gate. there's a lot of teams this year, first week, because there's so many games that like a lot of pressure on a team. I'm not sitting there saying that Nebraska is just feeling a ton of pressure week one, but dude, you let that game get to the fourth quarter on a Thursday night, an opening weekend of college football in Kansas City against Cincinnati, who brings back a ton of people. I know people are like, Cincinnati, they suck. Like, they're not a terrible football team. And
they could win the Big 12 this year.
Yeah,
all we know.
Everybody could win the Big 12.
Yeah.
And they bring back a ton, dude. A ton of production, Cincinnati does. So you let that game get tight and some weird things. You start like all those close games that Nebraska's lost over the last few years.
Weird stuff just happens on that opening Thursday game. Like last year, that North Carolina Minnesota game got weird. Like,
Yep. So that's a tricky game right out of the gate. I still think obviously Nebraska wins that game, but don't be shocked if Cincinnati's giving the Huskers a little bit of a game there in KC.
One more team in the Big Ten. We're going to head to the Eastern time zone, and we're going to make a stop in Bloomington, Indiana. We're going to talk about the Hoosiers, yet another team that made the college football playoff last year. They've went 11-1 against a schedule that was not strong. They lost to Ohio State. 9th best odds to win the Big Ten, though, at 50-1. Win total, 8.5. Probably fair when we tell you about their schedule here in a second. But again, we talked about them in our preview, and I think we had them ranked 5th, right behind Michigan. They've got a chance to be more talented than they were last year on offense and on defense.
Yep.
I think the quarterback play, Curtis Rourke came in from Ohio, played really well last year, all on a torn ACL, so he couldn't really move a lot. If Fernando Mendoza stays healthy, he's going to be mobile. He can move. He can sling it. He's got Surratt back at wide receiver. He's got Omar Cooper. He's got Holden Stays. He's got an improved offensive line, on paper at least. And the defense, like we talked about at all three levels, has guys back, Kamara, Fisher, and Pons. So they just – and again, it's Kurt Signetti. Like, Google him, right? All he does is win games.
True. Dude, I think it is absolutely outrageous. Why is nobody giving Indiana respect? Is it because I guess that how the schedule went down last year?
And it's been all the talk since December.
Yeah, I just think that it's been like such a narrative that's been created about Indiana that the disrespect has gotten out of hand for Indiana.
And I think it's because it's Indiana football. There's no way they're going to go back to back like double digit win seasons.
Yeah, I think the disrespect has gotten out of hand towards Indiana. So, I mean, Fernando Mendoza is probably better. It is more talented than Curtis Rourke. And you mentioned 3 guys on defense that were first team all Big Ten last year that are back on defense at all 3 levels of the defense, D-line, linebacker, and at corner. And the weapons on offense are, on paper, even better than what they had last year. And then they have a better offensive line. Adding your boy Coogan from Notre Dame. What's the guy's name from Ohio State?
From Ohio State.
Yeah, guy from Ohio State. Yep. And they've got a coaching staff that's been together for a decade that, again, all you say is Kurt Signetti, all he does is win. With that offensive coordinator and his defensive coordinator that's been with him for a decade has been a part of that, all of that winning. It's just crazy to me that, you look at Indiana's schedule, it's a little bit tough.
Hold on. Let's get to their non-conference.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, see, the non-conference I got here, they play the School of the Deaf 1 week, the School of the Blind 1 week, and then the School of the Deaf and Blind the third week.
That's pretty much it. Yeah,
you're
not wrong.
I mean, it's no reason to even talk about it. It's ridiculous. It's awful. It's terrible. If anybody wants to make fun of IU for their non-conference schedule, you should. I'm doing it right now. It's ridiculous. But 2 things can be true. They can have a ridiculously easy non-conference schedule and still be a damn good football team.
I think we said that multiple times last year. Like, we can admit they really haven't played anybody, but they're still really good. And they did what we kind of thought they were going to do in the Ohio State and the Notre Dame games, like hang in there for a quarter and a half to a half, and that's more than you can expect from a lot of teams who played last year.
Yeah, I wonder if you ask somebody right now, Tell me where do you think Indiana ranked last year in total defense and scoring defense? What numbers people would tell you? I don't know if they would say that they were ranked second in the country in total defense and sixth in the country in scoring defense. And again,
Well,
they bring back
who me?
yeah. They bring back 3 dudes that were first team all Big Ten on that defense. I don't get it, man. Again, I understand that the schedule is tougher playing road games at Oregon and at Penn State. Like that's obviously tougher than overall than what they faced last year. They went to Columbus last year, but overall that is tougher going to Oregon and to Penn State. But the key games for me again, magic number 10-2.
Yeah.
Let's just say that we have them losing the games like right now here today. I think pretty much everybody would tell you they probably think that if you're predicting games right here in June, probably think that Indiana's going to lose in Eugene at Oregon and going to lose in Happy Valley at Penn State.
Yeah.
The key games for them are Illinois. That's a huge game for both of those teams, by the way.
Yeah.
Huge game for both of those teams. Illinois on September the 20th and at Iowa, which we all know at Iowa City is not an easy – that's a tough, tough place to play. If they can just lose those 2 games at Oregon and Penn State and take care of business in their other games, there they are sitting there again at 10-2.
But after the whole narrative last year, and we talked about the magic number, for Indiana, is the magic number 10. I mean, I guess to get into the discussion, sure, but to make the playoff, is the magic number 10 because I know Illinois is going to be better this year. At Iowa is always a tough game, but you lose your 2 marquee matchups again. Like, you're 10-2. Who have you really beat?
Well, I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to be sitting there in a pool with a bunch of other 10-2 teams.
Yeah,
if I was Indiana in that situation,
and it sucks because like these players, they're awesome players, right? They're very talented. They can't do anything about this non-conference schedule that was made by a regime, 6 or 7 years ago when Indiana football was Indiana football, notably one of the worst programs in the country.
Yep.
So
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we're on the same page with this, man. Like, if you think that Indiana is not going to be a 10-2 type team, that's fine. But to have them with the 9th best odds, like even Vegas, the 9th best odds, like I can't believe they built those tall buildings like they have.
It's true. All right, let's head to the ACC. Let's talk about a team that, if they feel like this year's Georgia Tech, or not, though they are Georgia Tech, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, they feel like this year's Texas Tech from a couple of years ago, where they're starting to build some steam. Everyone's kind of hopping on the Yellow Jackets train. Right now, they got the 5th best odds to win the ACC at 15-1. I mean, there's a reason we didn't. I mean, they're the 5th best odds. Like, team who has the 5th best odds in the Big Ten or the SEC, you're not a sleeper. Like, you're going to be right there on the cusp. ACC and the Big 12, it's going to be tough for you to get 3, 4, 5 teams in. So 5th best odds in the ACC, win total of 7.5. Tell me about the coaches on this Georgia Tech team.
I think Brent Key, you can make an argument Brent Key is the most underrated head coach in all of college football. I think if you gave Brent Key the Miami job, he would be doing a hell of a job and doing better than what Mario Cristobal has done. You give Brent Key the head coaching job at some of these SEC, like the higher tiered SEC programs, I think they'd be winning a lot of football games, and he would be doing just as well as some of those teams and some of those coaches have done.
Let's tick some people off. How about Brent Key at Auburn?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Yeah, I think if you give Brent Key the NIL situation that they have there, and like, would he have top 7 or 8 recruiting classes? I don't know. But you're talking about a guy, though, Brent Key, who was an offensive line coach and an elite recruiter under Nick Saban for a long time. And he's been good enough to recruit really good football players to Georgia Tech to the point to where they're taking Georgia to the brink in Athens on Thanksgiving weekend. They're beating Cam Ward and beat Miami back-to-back years. They're good enough to beat teams like that. They're good enough.
They're doing this all as double-digit underdogs in most of these games.
Correct. They're good enough to have players like an Eric Singleton that everybody gets in the transfer portal and everybody wants. It ends up going to Auburn, speaking of Auburn. But we'll just start there. They lost one of their best offensive players, period, in Eric Singleton, but they replaced him with Eric Rivers from FIU. And the dude had over 1,100 yards receiving and 12 touchdowns last year. for FIU and was wanted by a lot of people. And I think he's going to be really good for the Jackets this year. But, dude, you got to start with, Brent Key is a head coach, and then Buster Faulkner is OC. Faulkner just seems like that kind of like, I don't know, like wizard mastermind like type deal. When you're watching games, dude, he just comes up with like unique ways to move the football and to score points. And dude, he's the true definition, man, of just a great game manager as an offensive coordinator. Like an example I'll give you of that. So they play against Georgia, and they put up a ton of points and had a ton of yards against Georgia and Athens, okay? On the flip side of that, when they played Miami, dude, just a masterful job of playing musical chairs at the quarterback position with running quarterback, passing quarterback, and just playing keep away from Cam Ward in Miami, limiting Cam Ward and keeping Cam Ward in Miami on the sidelines.
Yeah,
is what Buster Faulkner, Brent Key, and that offense did. Run, as Brent Key said after that Florida State game, run the damn ball. And they're really good at that.
Yep.
And Haynes King is a perfect field general at quarterback to run that offense. He's not the most talented quarterback in the country. He's not the best quarterback in the country, but the dude's a hell of a leader and makes plays and just, again, finds ways to win football games and to put points on the board and to do what's best for his offense. So the fact that you've got him coming back and Haynes coming back at tailback with that run game, and Brent Key being the offensive line guy that he is, I expect that offensive line to always be good there at Georgia Tech as long as he's there. This offense is going to be tough to stop and going to be a pain in the ass to stop because they're the type of team that is going to hit you in the mouth for 4 quarters and see how much you like playing football from an offensive standpoint. Now, on the defensive side of the ball is where they got to show some improvement. They got to get better on the defensive side. But, dude, I love their schedule and how it sets up this year. Honestly, their ACC opener is good old Clemson on September the 13th. Do I think as we sit here right now that they're going to beat Clemson? No. We've got Clemson ranked as the number 3 team in the country in our ATB top 12. You can go check out our top 12 rankings on our YouTube page right now if you want. But let me ask you this. Do you think there's just no chance that Georgia Tech just can't beat Clemson at home?
No, because there's a very realistic chance that like Clemson, maybe they're just not as good as ever. I mean, there's always a couple teams out there that just aren't as good as what everyone's making them out to be. And I would believe those teams would come from conferences like the ACC and the Big 12 over the Big 10 and the SEC. So to get them at home, 3rd week of the season, maybe Clemson hasn't quite gelled yet. They've obviously would be coming off of, 2 weeks before playing LSU at home, coming off, you never know what happens in those games. Are they flying high from that game after a win? Or are they coming off of a loss? Like, are they reeling? I don't know. So
let me ask you the next question. Let me ask you the next one for their next biggest game, far as teams who they're playing. After what we watched last year, do you think it's just a foregone conclusion? There's just no way that they can beat Kirby Smart in Georgia in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. How much do you hate that, by the way, that they're not playing that in Bobby Dodd?
It's ridiculous they're not playing that in Bobby Dodd, but it's they might have less fans in that home game, but they had less fans in last year's game. They took them to 8 overtimes, right? So
yeah, exactly.
They could do that. They've got, again, these are opportunities for them to show their strengths, to show that they belong. They don't play Miami, Louisville, or SMU, teams 2 through 4 in the odds to win the ACC, and they get Pitt, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech at home. So they got a couple tricky spots at Duke, at NC State. I mean, in some of these wide open conference races like the ACC and the Big 12, those are always going to be tricky spots. And you got to trust in Brent Key as a head coach.
Yep. And again, 10-2 is the magic number. Does that mean it's a guarantee that an ACC team gets in at 10-2? Absolutely not. That's not what we're saying. But to even be considered in the group of at-large teams to make the college football playoff, you've got to get to 10-2, especially in the ACC. And looking at their schedule, again, let's just say that they do lose to Georgia and Clemson. They absolutely can run the table in the rest of their games, and they they would have a shot to do that. So I get why there is, like, I believe in the coaches. I like what they're bringing back in the most important positions for this team, and I do think their schedule definitely sets up better than what it was last year.
Yeah. Let's stay in the ACC for one more team, and this is a team that I have been high on since 11 months ago when they entered this conference for the first time. That's the SMU Mustangs.
You were on them. You were on them early, bro.
All they did was prove me right last year. They went to the college football playoff, ran into a tough Penn State team. That was kind of to be expected. You can see the writing on the wall there. Fourth best odds to win the ACC, 8-1. Win total of 8.5. I think obviously if they continue to get Kevin Jennings improvement at the quarterback position, he really brought a lot of stability to that team last year. If you think about like kind of their first game that they lost against BYU, and I think it was that Friday night game there.
Dude,
in Dallas.
go even further than that. The first game of the season. Do you remember that wild like Friday night or Thursday night?
Nevada?
It was either Nevada or Utah State. I think it might have been Nevada. It was one of those. It was either Utah State or Nevada that they played on the road earlier in the year. And that was a wild game, dude.
Yeah.
Did not look good at all.
Preston Stone he struggled.
Like everybody, including us, was talking a lot of good things about Preston Stone going into last season. And he just wasn't it. Just disappointed. Yeah. And so again, I understand why they obviously started Preston Stone over Kevin Jennings. I mean, nobody thought Kevin Jennings was going to start. But when they made that move to Kevin Jennings, dude, everything changed for this SMU team.
Yeah, the ACC schedule is tougher. They got to go on the road to Clemson in the rematch of the ACC championship game last year that they lost on that last second field goal. They get Miami and Louisville at home, though, and the Miami game is on November 1st. So there's a chance it could be quite a little chilly there in Dallas. When the weather gets a little cold, the Canes don't like to play. And Louisville's at home too.
Hang on, wait. There's somebody going cold in Dallas, guys. It's Miami we're talking about here.
Yeah,
it could be
50 degrees.
Yeah, it could be 50, and that's cold in Miami.
Yeah. But again, opportunities present themselves for SMU in the non-conference. Like they have really good opportunities to get wins over Baylor and TCU.
They're a team now. Again, the magic number of 10-2.
Yeah, with
this schedule. I like how you said that earlier when we were talking about. I remember which team it was. The opportunities that they were going to have. That was A&M, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Like if SMU goes 10-2 with this schedule, that'll impress me more than their 11-1 last year.
I mean, think about it. If they get you're talking at the end of the season, say they lose at Clemson, but you looking at wins over SMU or Baylor, TCU, who we are both high. I mean, they're both in our top 8 of the Big 12. Miami and Louisville, like. Solid teams right there.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, they go 10-2 with this schedule. It'll get people's attention more than the 11-1 did last year. Absolutely. So yeah. I don't disagree with that one at all, man.
Big 12 time. Let's talk about our boy out in Salt Lake City, Kyle Whittingham and the Utah Utes. And last year, my goodness, it was them and Kansas State or Oklahoma State. Those are the top 3 in the Big 12. Just didn't quite come together for Utah or Oklahoma State. But this year they're tied for the 4th best odds to win the Big 12. They're a CFP sleeper because the only one team made it from the Big 12 last year. And that was Arizona State, the champion. So 7-1. If you want to bet on Utah to win the Big 12 right now, the win total is 7.5. Your boys, Witt, Morgan Scalley, and Jason Beck. Tell me about them.
I think it's the best trio of head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator in the Big 12 right now. I think that hire of Jason Beck by Whittingham was unbelievable, man. I mean, Whittingham is one of those coaches that stays loyal to his guys. So for him to get rid of an offensive coordinator and to get rid of one of his boys like that and to go hire somebody, and then the hire that he makes and Jason Beck, like, look, we ain't got to sit here and talk about it forever, but if you want to go look at what New Mexico, the Lobos, did last year offensively, the numbers that they put up. And Jason Beck's resume overall. I mean, he's with Bronco Mendenhall for a long time. He's coached some really good quarterbacks in his day. Taysom Hill is an example of a quarterback that he coached back in the day. Was a longtime QB's coach, got his chance to be an offensive coordinator. He's been really good ever since. And he's bringing his quarterback with him. And one of the most exciting players in college football that the majority of the country has not seen play yet, and they will this year. And Devin Dampier, dude, had 2,800 yards passing and 1,100 yards rushing last year and 31 touchdowns.
He's very similar breakout wise to Damon Williams.
Agreed. And some people would say, well, he put up those numbers last year. Didn't he break out last year? If you're listening to this, you are an absolute ball junkie if you watched a bunch of Devin Dampier last year. Okay. Point is the majority of college football did not watch a bunch of New Mexico football last year. Okay.
Yeah.
So there will be a lot more eyes on him now, obviously being QB1 for Utah. So he is absolutely going to be a breakout candidate. And that's where it all starts, man. It really that's where it all starts and ends with Utah.
Yep.
They've got to be healthy, man, at the quarterback position. Nobody the last couple of years has been bitten by the injury bug more and has honestly been held hostage by a situation than the Cam Rising deal. Hey, real quick, is Cam Rising still questionable? Jesus, bro.
Forever.
He's forever questionable. I want to see injury reports every week that Utah puts out, and I just want them to be funny and put Cam Rising questionable every single week still, even though he's not even on the roster. They just got to stay healthy at QB, man. Let me tell you what Utah has done the last few years that they've had is to quarterback healthy. Let's see here. In 2021 and 2022, they went to back-to-back Rose Bowls in the Pac-12. 2018, 2019, 2021, and 2022, they played in the Pac-12 championship game. The only year they didn't play in the Pac-12 championship game was that goofy COVID year.
Yep.
So, point is, they're sitting there playing for their conference championships and playing in the biggest bowl games when they have a healthy quarterback. So, if Devin Dampier can stay healthy, I think this Utah team's got every bit of a chance to win this wide open Big 12. And the reason is because the coaching staff is so freaking good. The defense under Morgan Scalley is always going to be good. Utah last year couldn't get a first down on offense, and they still had the number 2 defense in the Big 12 and one of the better defenses in the country. They've got arguably the best offensive tackle duo in the entire country. If you look at NFL draft boards right now, Spencer Fanu and Caleb Lemieux are right tackle, left tackle. Both of them are projected first-round picks on a lot of these mock drafts that you're seeing right now. So experienced O-line.
Yeah. If they stay healthy, Dampier is going to stay healthy.
I agree. So I'm not worried about the defense. If Dampier stays healthy, I think this Utah team has a shot to make some serious noise in the Big 12 this year. I just think, again, we might even be guilty of this right now with this Utah team. Like, even our Big 12 rankings that we came out with, I'm almost thinking, like, man, did we forget about our boy Witt with those?
Yeah, we had him 7th.
Yeah, did we forget how good Witt really is and this Utah bunch can be? I think the rest of the country has. Why? Just because last year they weren't great and they had all these injuries at quarterback. Dude, if Cam Rising would have been healthy all year last year, do we really think Utah would have been as booty as they were last year?
Probably not, but like in our defense, the Big 12 is just so hard to predict. It's just so hard to rank teams.
Yeah, I agree. But as far as the schedule goes, I mean, look, Big 12 schedules in general, it doesn't matter because it's so wide open.
Mm-hmm.
You could look at every team's schedule and be like, dang, I mean, you don't look at anybody's schedule and go, well, there's guaranteed wins.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Yeah, it's hard to predict.
Pretty balanced.
It is. But and good news is we all know how hard it is to play at Rice Eccles. Rice Eccles Stadium at Utah is an absolute snake pit to go play in. And they get the best teams that they play on their schedule, the majority of them. Arizona State, who most people have power ranked as the number 1 team in the Big 12, returning Big 12 champs. They go to Rice Eccles. They get Texas Tech at home. They get Kansas State at home. Now, their road games, again, all these teams are solid. The Holy War, they'll go to Provo in that beautiful setting. They would go to Waco and play Baylor. They play at Kansas against a solid team with Lance Leipold, and that Kansas punch is going to be solid again. And Morgantown's a tough place to play. And Rich Rod's first year there at West Virginia. So, but there's going
to be a lot of late Saturday nights staying up watching games in Salt Lake City.
Oh, I can't wait, man. I'm looking forward to it. But I do think this Utah, again, here's the thing with Big 12 teams, by the way. The magic number is not 10-2. The magic number is win the Big 12.
Yeah.
Now, 10-2 to be considered amongst the at-larges, but Utah just needs to win the Big 12. Do I think they can? Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to without winning the conference, like, you're gonna have to prove on the field that you're a very, like, power rated heavy team, and that you can, like, you're not just getting blown out. You're not losing games by flukes or anything like that. But let's round it out with a team you just mentioned and a team that is actually tied for 4th in the conference with best odds to win the Big 12 at 7-1. That's the Baylor Bears. Win total as well at 7.5, just like darn near half the conference.
I was gonna say, like, the whole Big 12 is 7.5.
Yeah. Sawyer Robertson continues to develop into a stud, and they continue to carry that momentum from the end of the year last year.
They average 41 points a game like
Yeah.
their last 6 or 7 games of the year.
Yeah, if this all happens, like, they're gonna be sitting really nice. And you talked about it, man. Like, for the first half of the season, they weren't starting the right quarterback, and they weren't playing the right running back in Bryson Washington.
Right. I mean, Bryson Washington and Sawyer Robinson are the best quarterback running back duo in the Big 12. And one of your better quarterback running back duos, like, in the country. I'm not saying they're the best, but, like, they would, if we did a top 10 list, they would fall in that. Absolutely. And dude, how about all the attention Sawyer Robertson's been getting lately? I mean, some of the biggest names that cover this sport have been really talking about him a lot lately, and rightfully so, with the year that he had last year. I mean, this is going to be an exciting Baylor team, man. I like the wide receivers that they're bringing back. They got Kobe Prentice to transfer in from Alabama. Obviously, I know a little bit about him. That dude can play, man. You're talking about a guy that came in as a true freshman in Tuscaloosa, and he was not one of your, like, 5-star, number one, whatever type recruits that everybody was just so excited about. And then all you heard coming out of fall camp was there was this guy named Kobe Prentice as a true freshman. And then sure enough, the season started. He was starting. And things just never did. Like, again, he was solid, okay? He just wasn't a dominant receiver.
Yeah.
But you put him in this Jake Spavital offense where they're going to spread you out and sling the rock all over the place, and the way he can scheme receivers open and in the passing game, dude, he could have a really solid year for Baylor this year. I think that was a great ad. That could be one of those again. It's not the flashy, one of the best, like, teams in the country with the greatest ad. But you look at the Big 12, and then we look at the Big 12 race later in the year, and Baylor's offense is sitting there putting up 40 a game.
Yeah.
Like, Prentice might be a reason why that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, you look at the Big 12 schedules. They don't play Texas Tech, which is an absolute shame that they don't play one of their in-state rivals. But they also get Arizona State, Kansas State, and Utah all at home.
Yep.
And then, again, man, if you're talking about chances for non-conference wins, look no further than Baylor. They open up with two of the best non-conference games in the season, if anybody, if any P4 team in the country, hosting Auburn on a Friday night, August 30th on Fox, 8 p.m. That place is going to be nuts for that. And then they followed up by playing SMU. So you're talking about playing an SEC team, getting a big victory as a home underdog, and then going to play an ACC contender, a team that was in the college football playoff last year. You win those games, you start off 2-0, and
you got everybody's attention.
Again, and then two non-conference wins like that, 10-2, they will be at the top of, like, that. They will be near the top of that 10-2 pile of teams.
No, I agree, and you'll get everybody's attention if you win those two games.
Yeah,
because that's obviously two big wins. But let's just be real here. If they're winning those two games, with the way this Baylor team is built, they're built to score a lot of points. There are going to be a lot of people on that Sawyer Robertson bandwagon in a hurry.
Oh yeah.
After that, and the Bryson Washington bandwagon. I mean, that offense will have to be cooking, because again, Baylor's defense last year was not very good. We obviously respect Dave Aranda as a defensive-minded coach. That side of the ball has to be better. If Baylor is going to be a playoff sleeper, Dave Aranda's got to shore up his side of the ball, and the Bears got to be better on defense, because, dude, I just don't see how there's any chance at all, barring injury, that this Baylor offense under Spavital, with Sawyer Robertson, Bryson Washington, those receivers, I just don't see how they won't be really good, man. I don't know how they won't.
I like your point there, because, like, I think if you're thinking Baylor can win those first two games, right now might be the time to sprinkle a little cash on Sawyer Robertson for Heisman.
Yeah, I mean, if they win those two games, that hype train will be started early for him. Like I said, you think I'm joking, go to X and just type in Sawyer Robertson's name.
Yeah.
And look at all of the names just in the last week or two of people that have been really hyping him up and talking about him, and rightfully so.
Yep. That's it. Those are 9 teams we got for college football playoff sleepers this year. We may add a couple more later on in the summer. We'll see, what fall camp gets started like. But, man, we just cannot wait for football season to get here. We appreciate you guys listening. Again, go back, subscribe to the YouTube, follow us on Apple and Spotify. Head to hopefieldapparel.com, ATB15. Lance, you got anything else to add, man? I mean, all I got to say is that you got to hit the subscribe. You got to turn on the notifications for when the videos are coming out, because I'm telling you, we're getting some guests on this show. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I agree. Just hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a thing. It helps us out a ton. If you're listening, you're an audio person, you don't like watching on YouTube, don't want to see our early mugs on YouTube, head on over to Apple and Spotify. Just hit that follow button. And everybody's got social media. We throw out some pretty solid content on X and Instagram. TikTok has just blown up lately. We definitely weren't the type that, guys that were like, we're kind of just older dudes here, some dads that weren't really thinking about doing TikTok. And some buddies of mine was like, dude, y'all got to get on TikTok. And we did. It's been a blast, man. It's blown up. A lot of great interaction on there. A lot of great feedback and in the comments. Go on there, trash our videos. We'll trash you right back and have a good time going back and forth. But yeah, follow us on our socials. Follow us on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. And we love talking about this awesome, awesome sport with you guys.
All right, that's it for us. We will see you next week.